Lock and Load podcast is sponsored by Lock and Load Firearms, Connecticut's #1 rated gun store and pistol permit class on Google. Come check us out, 1573 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington. Lock and Load Firearms.
Lock and Load podcast is also sponsored by Patriot Holsters, custom-made Kydex holsters locally made in Waterbury, Connecticut. www.patriotwearholster.com and use code LNL podcast for 10% off your purchase. Orders available for shipping or pickup at various locations.
Welcome to Lock and Load podcast. My name is Josh.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're here to talk to you about Connecticut 2A issues. Today, our special guest is Frank. How do you say your last name, Frank? Scirpo. I always say that wrong. Frank Scirpo from Patriot Performance Shooting, who does pistol permit classes and then probably more focuses on advanced classes. So first question, what we kind of start out with all of our guests is, how did you get into firearms?
Sure thing. My brother started shooting. There was no guns in my house when I grew up. Well, there was one lever action rifle because my dad liked cowboy stuff. So he had a BB gun that looked like a 6-shooter, and then he had a real lever action rifle. No ammo, thank God. Lock up your guns if you got kids. Or at least let your kids know what the guns are. Show them the guns. Show them the guns.
Curiosity is bad.
We looked at the guns. So my brother, who's a year older than me, he went in the military, and I think that's what started it for him. So all of a sudden, he got his pistol permit because we get our pistol permits when we were 18 back then. We're talking the late 80s, and he got his pistol permit, and I'm like, you got a gun? He's like, yeah. He's like, go get your permit. I'm like, right on. So I went to JoJo's back when it was Joseph's Gun in New Britain. That's where he went. I shot in the basement of their house out in front, and got my pistol permit. 18, can't buy a handgun.
Right.
Bought an AR-15 though. And,
can't buy those at all anymore.
So my brother's like,
so you went hard. You went like straight from no permit, nothing to an AR. That's awesome.
I was a big military kid. So I had no family in the military immediately, but I always read books about military. So I was like, I want an AR-15.
That is awesome.
And
you
somehow he had handguns. No.
You saw that and you sold it?
Not the story.
Yeah, we'll get to that after. I'll write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
Yes.
So I carried his handguns.
Okay.
And so that's how I got it. Again, 18 years old. I don't really know much. I did do the pistol permit class, so there's the safety part of it. And I think I was pretty safe with guns back then. But I was still a senior in high school. So this is, I think, how my teaching career started. So I had a speech class my senior year in the spring of my senior year. And I asked teacher, I said, hey, can I bring my handgun in? This is Newington, Connecticut. Can I bring my handgun in and do a safety class?
Your handgun?
My handgun.
Okay.
Can I bring my handgun in and do a safety class because I was carrying my brother's handgun. So can I do a safety class? And she's like, yeah, lock it in my closet in the morning. Take it out when you're going to do the speech. And we'll lock it back up. Come get it at the end of the day.
What year was this?
89.
Okay.
89. So I did that, brought it out, and there's all the kids in class. And so I pull out the box, I unlock it, I open it up, and all the kids are sitting there. Yep. Nobody cared.
No.
Not one kid in the class that I can think of had any kind of expression on their face. Nobody cared. They're all like, this is Newington. It's not like we're in like the boonies or something, right? Yeah. But nobody cared. And I did this little class on the firearms safety rules or something. I forget what it was, something like that. And put it away and took it home at the end of the day.
We used to go plinking after school, and they'd bring them, and they would sit in their cars, not handguns, but the rifles and stuff.
Yeah, the teams.
Yeah,
the
but not even the
stuff.
teams, just as friends, because I grew up in Shelton, so we had a lot of cow country, a lot of pastures, and we would just after school go plinking. So we'd bring the guns. I didn't have any, but my friends did, and we'd all go and shoot in the fields.
Right. Yeah.
Should we do the story on why she didn't have any guns? A young, responsible adult Michelle was.
No, I was. I didn't jive off that diving board till into my 20s, but yes.
Oh, okay. So you were an okay then.
I was.
Oh, okay,
I
that's
was.
good. Okay, now we got to hear about the AR story. What happened to the AR? Because that would have been a pre-ban.
So
yes,
I'm one of those people. With the way things are now, I pretty much abide by the law. So they're like, hey, if you got others, you got to register them. A lot of people are like, tyranny, and, I'm like, well, I got a kid, a wife, 2 kids, a wife, you know, and I like
The state knows what you have.
The state knows what I have anyways, and I'd like to keep what I have and not have to fight in jail, fight my way out of jail and stuff like that, right? And I'm like, but back then, Clinton put his Assault Weapons Act in.
Yep.
Remember that? The whole Clinton Assault Weapons Act?
I fought
and
hard
like,
with that.
They're like, you got to register your assault rifles. And I was like, you. And then I'm like, and I've known I've always wanted to be a cop. I've wanted to be a cop for a long time. And I was like, so then, like, I'm in my mid 20s and I'm starting to take tests and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I have this illegal rifle at home. Shit. Now I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not a cop yet, so I don't know what they know, right? And I'm like, they're going to find out. Damn it, they're going to find out. I got to get rid of it. So I had to sell the thing out of state. And I was just like so brokenhearted about it. Now I look back, I'm like, I could have just kept that thing. Nobody knew, nobody cared, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so broke my heart. So,
yeah.
Register your guns.
So did you become a cop?
Yeah, I was a cop for 21 years.
Okay. All right. So it was worth getting rid of it then. At least you got the end game.
Yeah, I don't think it would have stopped me, but it made me less nervous.
Okay. Understood.
So yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
So why did you pick Patriot Performance Shooting as a name?
So it's good.
Thank you. I've always liked the concept of performance-based shooting, and I've always been a patriot. I've always loved my country. I've always been inspired by the military, and stuff like that. And I don't know why it is. When I grew up, I didn't have a big military family or anything, but I was always inspired by the military. Read a lot of books. I always felt patriotism. I loved my country. I loved going to parades, and and so when I was thinking of names, I'm like, I want something with patrioting, because that's what I feel like. That's how I feel as a person in my country. I'm a patriot for my country. So that's how it came about. And then the performance shooting aspect, patriot, and I was like patriot, and I train performance based shooting stuff, and so that's how it came together. I had a lot of different versions, but that's what I ended up with.
Got Patriot Wear holsters and Patriot Performance Shooting.
Right,
yeah. Well, mine's a lot like him. I did the same thing. I'm a patriot, true, through and through. I'm passionate about it, and I kept thinking, how do I wrap that in? Because what are we going to do? And then I thought, well, wear, like housewares, but you make it holsters are like gun wares. Yeah. So Patriot Wear. There you go.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, I didn't come up with my name. My buddy did.
There's no cool story for you.
No, we were just trying to rack our brains with names and finally found something, and we're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it works.
It works because there's A0 in Connecticut, and there's one Lock and Load in Vegas, and then there's Locked and Loaded.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that.
That one's a bigger one. That one does some online stuff, but that's not Lock and Load.
Yeah.
So Firearms actually is LLC is the full name.
You should trademark that so nobody across the country can get it.
Oh yeah, and I'll send my lawyer after them for $5.
Anywho,
if you want me to do that, comment below. Okay. So what kind of classes do you offer?
So I kind of started out my teaching career started out besides the high school thing, in the military, right? And when I was in the Connecticut Army National Guard, I was an infantry soldier, 8 years. And when I became an NCO, NCOs teach. They teach all kinds of stuff. And but they sent me to small arms instructor school. Okay. So that's kind of where my firearms instructing started. I went to small arms instructor school in Arkansas. Did the 2 or 3 week program there. Came back. Then I transitioned into police work. After a few years, I was on a SWAT team. I was a pretty good shooter. And my chief recognized it, and he's like, I want you to be our next firearms instructor. So he sent me to firearms instructor school, and I then left that police department, came to my next police department, where they were like, we like your attitude. We want you to be a firearms instructor right now. I was already certified, so I started doing it there, and I did it for 15 years in my last police department. 17 years in my last police department. And during that time, I get a lot of people. They'd come up and they'd like, the other officers, like, hey Frank, my wife, kid, husband wants to get their permit. Do you do that? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, I could probably make some money doing it. Right? Like, why not? And because the towns used to do it, like police departments could do it for people. They could host classes and stuff, but the town was getting paid, and that wasn't going to happen. So I was like, so I started teaching.
I want the money.
Yeah. So I started teaching. I got my NRA certificate. Now, mind you, I'd already been through police firearms instructor school, small arms instructor school in the military, and a host of other firearms instructor related schools. Plus,
so when you sat through NRA, you were bored out of your mind.
Yeah. No disrespect to the guy that did the class, but it's not a hard class.
No. And it's very mind-numbing.
Well, and if you have any kind of knowledge coming into it, you've gone through your permit class, and basically it's just going through
any kind of correct
knowledge.
Correct.
Yes.
I had an officer go through the police academy who was an NRA, basic pistol instructor, and failed his qualifications.
Oh, wow.
Which is not a bad thing. Then you go get 40 hours of more training. You get to come back and do it again. So that person actually ends up getting 3 times as much training as the average officer before they hit the street. But he was an NRA instructor.
So he should have had the fundamentals and been able to do what he was.
Right. And he had all the problems that non-experienced shooter, firearms users have. He had them all. So I don't know, how do you teach? I'm like, how do you teach people, bro? You suck. I'm like,
well, and you're teaching them all your bad habits.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes to like life now. I watch other instructors at the range. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's the same with students. I love my newbie students that have never put their hands on a firearm before, because you don't have to undo any bad habits that they've picked up.
As long as they listen.
Yeah.
Most do.
I run into a lot more.
If they start making a mistake, it's easy to correct it because they haven't built it. They haven't built the neural pathways to make it a subconscious habit at that point, right?
Correct.
So they're easier. You say, hey, you're starting to do this, so let's correct that now. And it's easy for them to correct. They don't need to do 5,000 repetitions to correct the problem, to try and override the old memory with the new memory, right?
Yeah. So
that new shooters are great for that. So even if they're making a mistake, big deal. It's super easy to correct usually.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump off the NRA aspect there. You're NRA and USCCA certified, right? So am I, and Michelle's the lonely NRA instructor down there.
It's all right.
With the state pass legislation, Michelle and I actually talked to DZO from the USCCA last night.
Okay.
And because there's rumors going around that like USCCA didn't submit curriculum, and they have.
Yeah.
I didn't know this until yesterday. December 8th, I think it was, in the instructor portal on USCCA's, they've updated the Connecticut supplemental, which I didn't know they updated that yet.
I got an email from the USCCA as an instructor a couple months ago saying, because part of the new requirements, if you have a company, you have instructors under you in the company, they all you have to give us their names and all that stuff, right? And they sent us a thing. They sent an email saying, hey, so that shows me they initiated something because they sent out the request to, hey, if you want to instruct under us in Connecticut here.
So I'm wondering how old that email is from Bree, who sent that out.
Keeps going around.
That keeps going around because like we've now confirmed with the USCCA and I'm going to email them and then post that email. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to post this online just like as a CYA. So like people know what's going on. The NRA curriculum and what they've submitted what they've submitted, I don't think meets any of the criteria. Yeah. It's like the home concealed carry fundamentals. None of that talks about Connecticut law, which is what the new law says.
Yeah. Well, in those other curriculums, I don't think for a beginner, the basic pistol shooting class or safety class is what a newbie needs. These other classes that they've submitted aren't for newbies who have never put their hands on it. So it's going to be interesting.
I agree that like these people, like the newbies, need to know law. You need to know some law. You need to understand what you're getting into and what the consequences are and how you can defend yourself, which is like what that supplemental provides. Which I think is really good. And it also protects like the USCCA instructors from that like liability aspect,
definitely,
because it's approved curriculum from them. I'm very curious because I keep, I pay attention to what I call competition, right?
Of course.
And people in the field, and these NRA guys think they're going to be okay. And I think, what is it, May 1st, something like that?
Yeah.
Like they're going to be shit out of luck.
Right.
Well,
I mean, they can submit a plan after May 1st too.
But here's the deal: it's good till May 1st. But if you teach a class on May 1st, they've already said that certificate will no longer be valid after May 1st.
Yeah.
So unless the student goes home at 6 o'clock at night and somehow can submit their application, it's not going to work.
And we're going to run into everyone's going to run into an issue come May 1st.
Anybody who's teaching NRA, I know, because when I teach it, a good chunk of my students don't go home and submit their application within a month. But usually it's even longer than that. And so if they don't and I've been stressing when I do any classes, look, this one you're running out of time on because I don't have anything to work with here forward. So if you're going to do this, be ready. Because sometimes they do, like we were, talking earlier about money. So they kind of budget it out. You do the class and then you save up some more money so you can do the application because everything's money.
Use your constitutional right.
Yes. Well, yes.
I need some money so you can use your constitutional right.
Yes. But it's true.
How would that be if you had to get a lawyer and they're like, oh, give us $100, we'll let you call your lawyer. How do people feel then?
Don't give anybody any ideas, would you?
Right.
Sorry, Ned. No.
I don't think Ned's going to be watching this, guys. But if he is, you are cordially invited to the Lock and Load podcast. Anytime, any day, I will make it work.
And I'll be a guest speaker.
Oh.
We'll come. Yeah.
We'll do a live presentation. We'll take donations and we'll put that against your competitor in the next 3 years. But that's raising money,
right.
We could even just do a panel of people asking questions. I would love that.
That'd be cool.
So, but like you're saying, that legal, that's what, it's nice the USCCA's had that legal because honestly, I teach a safety class that I gear towards people that have had their permit taken away from them. And it changes, the curriculum slightly changes based off of why they had their permit taken away. Like, was it something like they carried a gun where they weren't supposed to? Or was it something where they did something dangerous with their firearm and they had their permit taken away? What's that?
You got to move closer.
Closer.
I keep losing you every now and again.
You can, you can move it up and down too. The whole thing will move.
Sorry, guys, technical difficulties.
There we go.
Okay. There we go.
So I teach this class, and I've had like a half dozen since I started teaching it a few months back of lawyers refer people to me, and these people, I think if they knew the law, at least 5 of these 6 people, well, 4 of these 6 people, if they knew the law,
3,
they wouldn't have had their permit taken away. If they knew some basic stuff about where you can't carry, where you can carry, what the use of force laws are. Not that I don't encourage discussions during that part of the class. I'm like, this is to go take a separate class on that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read you some laws and for that part, because that could be a whole 8-hour session on its own, right?
Yep.
But I think if they knew these laws, so I understand why the state's doing it. They're like, well, if we already teach a class, why don't we add the law aspect in? I know where that's going to come, how you put that into a class that already takes 8 hours. The USCCA's fitted in. So, I think that since we already have the class, I think it'll help. I think it'll help people not lose their permits. Some people, obviously, some people just go, I don't give a fuck, and they do what they want to do, then they get caught.
Well, and at the end of the day, the laws that we're teaching in the curriculums that they want out there are still very.
Yeah, it's like you can't carry in a state park. You can't carry in a post office.
Correct.
Can't carry in a school.
Can't carry in a school. It's Class B felony.
But there's still a lot of laws that people don't pay attention to. They figure once they get a gun, they're done. Right. Yeah. And every year in Connecticut, our gun laws change.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that happens.
It's like this breathing, living thing that's constantly changing.
Yes. So it's, and that's something that I struggle with is how do we get out to the general gun owners to follow and do themselves the favor. It's their responsibility to be responsible gun owners. We need to know what's going on.
You can't hold people's hands. You can give them information. You can tell them where they can find the information. But people at some point have to be responsible for themselves. And they know there's laws, and they know they have to keep current with the laws. That's why when somebody comes in or somebody talks to me and they're like, hey, I just heard or I'll talk to them like, you got to register that rifle. And they're like, or other.
And they're like,
right.
What?
And they're like, why?
It's already registered.
What?
Not really.
Well, as a firearm, it is, but not as an assault weapon. It's 2 different categories.
There's 2 different
How do you do that?
And so then I have to explain that to them, and they're like, well, I'm like, because the state, people at the state don't know what an assault weapon is on that form, right? That you could have turned that gun into anything, that firearm into
Fixed
any
mag.
number of, it could be a bolt action rifle,
Yep.
for all they know. So, it's just stuff like that. People just, I don't know if they live under a rock or what, but
I mean, that's
at
the
some
whole
point,
purpose of the podcast, right? Is to
Right.
get people more informed. We've been doing this now for 3-4 months, something like that.
Yeah, more than 3. So I'd say like 4.
And I think this will be like episode 20 or 21, something like that.
That's awesome.
That's a magic number.
Awesome. Yeah,
lots of things happen at 21.
You can buy a handgun.
Yeah.
You can take a pistol permit and buy a handgun. But I think that's at least where I would like this to go, especially with the upcoming legislative session. And paying attention to that, doing a little more research on the bills. CCDL, and we talked about this in Samson's video, with Ray Beavis leaving, retiring, whatever,
Stepping down.
Moving on. And Matt Strasser stepping in. I think Matt's going to need a lot of help. I truly think that. And I wish Matt the absolute best with it, and will help him with, what I can.
Well, and I think having Rob Sampson back on during the middle of session when he can explain some of these gun laws, hopefully that will help open up people's eyes, or at least guide them into doing some more deeper research on what's going on. And I think, when it comes to training, I think there's different types of training. Okay. The training again comes into keeping track of what our laws are and keeping ourselves law-abiding citizens, because in general that's what we are.
Right.
But it also comes down to proficiency and actual use of firearms and safe handling and continuing on. And that's kind of, you do a lot of those classes, right?
Yep. Correct. That's what I do.
Like, what's the list of classes you got?
Right, so real quick. Besides pistol permit classes are a small portion of what I do. I do a lot of skill-based classes. So just learning to shoot better. And then, so that might be like my practical pistol skills for accuracy, or my practical pistol skills for target focus shooting. Then those are 2 that I do that are kind of skill-based. And then after that, I have a practical pistol skills and applications class where I teach the shooter, the person using the firearm who's been sitting on a range. Maybe they'll go to their favorite outdoor, indoor range, and they'll stand there and they'll do some shooting at a target, right? And they're just standing there or sitting because that's all the range allows them to do. And they don't know anything about. Generally, most of these people don't know anything about self-defense and the human body, right? There's a lot of dynamics that occur in the human body, physiologically and psychologically, when you are under the duress of a deadly force attack, or your life's in danger, right? So that can be applied to a car accident, to like you having to brake real quick, to any number of dangerous things. But we're talking self-defense here in this case. So
the curriculum for USCCA, they have 6 things you didn't know when the police arrive. It's a newer curriculum. It's on there. It's one of the mini classes. That one talks about how your brain and body works under stress. And like, we were one of the OPE events. That's the partner. And we did the test class for that here in Connecticut. And it was a really cool class. And we've done that since.
That'd be a great class. And that's the kind of stuff I encourage people to take. I'm like, listen, I know y'all love shooting classes. The people that take the shooting classes, I'm like, I know y'all love the shooting classes, but there's some other classes you should be taking too, like the legal classes, what to do once you've been in a shooting, like how you should respond to the police, and
legal seminars.
Legal seminars.
So
exactly. All those things.
We do that. We have one coming up at the end of February, on the 26th.
USCCA one?
USCCA. Well, Dave Cantello. He's one of the USCCA attorneys, criminal defense attorney. Costs $10 to attend. And last time we did that, we do it once every, I'll say like 3 times a year. In this room, we had like 50 people jammed in here. And obviously no tables and chairs, but it gets pretty packed in here. And it's a good seminar. And Greg Miller's done them as well in the past. So like, if you can find a seminar by an attorney that's doing that, go to those. USCCA does some free classes. I do them here. I know there's some other partners out there that do them as well.
Because people don't realize when you're under duress like that and you have to talk to an officer, your body you just talk. you just spill out all kinds of
Which
stuff.
is what you do not want to do.
Right. And
so part of it is, well, it depends. I guess it depends on the person, their lifestyle, how they grew up. But a lot of people trust the police, right? They're expect the police are going to do the right thing. And it's not that the police want to do the wrong thing. But the police officers have a duty that they have to do based off of the law and what the prosecutor in their district wants them to do. And part of it's gathering evidence. And gathering evidence is a whole bunch of stuff: physical evidence, witness evidence. And I would get officers would get upset with me because we would talk about, because another key one thing I instructed in was use of force. And we would talk about post-incident stuff if an officer had to use force. And like one time I said, if you've just used force, the big thing is don't say anything till your union rep gets there and we get a lawyer. And I was like, well, I said, hold on a second. I'm like, if I just defended myself or somebody else from a suspect, and that suspect had a knife, and I shot them, and they dropped the knife, and the knife skirted over there, I might want to say the guy when I shot him was standing here. He fell down over there. He had a knife, and I think the knife went that way. And I'd get officers, you shouldn't say anything. I'm like, well, I want them to recover the evidence to exonerate me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not telling them a whole bunch of stuff, but I might want to tell them where the weapons are that this person had that would exonerate me. Oh, look, he did have a knife. Yeah, that would exonerate a civilian. Well, maybe not exonerate, but that would possibly help a civilian as well. So there's little things like, I want you to know where the knife or the gun was or the baseball bat they attacked me with.
Yeah,
because
if it's not there immediately, right. I want to be like, you need to be looking for a baseball bat, officer. That's so that my take on it. Again, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but that's my take on it.
Do you play one on TV?
I do. I stayed at a Motel 8 last night. So.
Those things still exist.
That's awesome.
Some of you got that. Some of you didn't get that. It's okay, guys. I'm lucky I got that.
Trying to say we're old?
Yeah. I know, I get that.
The pre-podcast, okay, you guys want to be a fly on the wall here, okay? That's when stuff gets said. Before we start rolling here.
Good time. So what was the rest of the question?
List of classes.
List of classes that we're on. So I teach a lot of skill-based classes. So that practical pistol skills, which is a 4-hour class, and I geared it that way. So one could be affordable for students. It's not an 8-hour class. So the round count's a lot lower, and it's going to get the average. I would think the average person more excited about maybe going to something or more intrigued into going something because it's not an entire day. It's 4 hours. So and that one, again, what I do is I say, this is how I make sure their fundamentals of shooting good. Because if you don't have the fundamentals of shooting down, they're not going to get better when you get attacked by somebody or something, right?
Yep.
Whether it's a bobcat or a person, they're not going to get better. It's not going to be miraculous. Like, hey, I'm a world-class IPSC shooter all of a sudden, right? That's not the way it works. So I take them, I make sure that stuff's squared away. And then we work into how the body responds during an attack and how to start to shoot pretty much target focused, which is how I grew up shooting. Because when I got my pistol, I had a very basic class, but I was very bored. I was a security guard for a while, and I was working midnight shift. So I'd go and get books on shooting. And books are these things you open up. There's pages in them. Yeah, check them out.
I know the wife is a book girl.
Yeah, my wife is too. Still, I don't know.
So many books. And she has a Kindle too. Like I'm like,
I still buy. I just bought a new book yesterday online that's coming to the house. Neuro, which is it talks about the training aspect of how the mind works based off of training and stuff. I'm very actually excited to see it. To start reading it. That's the stuff I geek out on. Really hard. And then we start, and I teach them how to become target focused. So that way they can go to the range and they can practice both ways. They can practice with their sighting system, and then they can practice target focused, right? Mm-hmm. I have my beliefs in how things go, and other people have theirs, and you'll see it in different books and stuff. But so those are like my base level classes. I do a lot of 2-hour and 3-hour classes. Like for shotgun and stuff. And then I have my 8-hour classes, and those would be like my fighting carbine 1, my fighting carbine 2, my self-defense pistol 1, my self-defense pistol 2, my I'm blanking on it. I have a stop the bleed class where I integrate shooting after we talk about the basics of tourniquets and stuff like that, and chest seals and wound packing. We go into all one-handed shooting. the whole training portion is one-handed shooting. I teach you how to get your gun out with your support hand. I teach you how to get your gun out, and you're not coming unless I tell people, unless you wear a duty belt all day, you should be wearing your concealed carry rig. That's what you should be coming with. And I teach them how to get that stuff out. And then I run a bunch of scenario kind of stuff, basic scenario stuff, because it's live fire.
Where do you do all your live fire?
I got a couple different places. I rent out Blue Trail.
Okay.
And then I have private property that a friend of mine lets me use to do some stuff. Yeah. Which works out well.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's what I do. But then like I do a lot of private lessons as well. A lot of, right. Which is awesome. Right now I'm averaging like 4 or 5, maybe 6 some weeks. And I do some of those at my gun club and some of those at the private property, depending on what the person wants to do. Like private property is nice because we could do like cartwheels down the range in body armor if we want to, because there's nobody going, can't do that, right? And so
you can't draw from your holster
right,
here.
Yeah, exactly. So
no rapid fire, 5 seconds between every shot. Right. Because in real life, I'm gonna fucking count.
But I have a question. When you were listing off your you said fighting carbine.
Yes.
I want to know, like, what does that mean?
So there's
I come over and I steal your gun.
They're shooting a firearm. Right?
Okay.
And then there's fighting with a firearm.
Okay.
Right. So fighting, it just means combatives. Somebody is trying to assault me,
and is in my space.
I am going to stop them. Right.
Okay.
So it's just, I'm fighting with a firearm in my hand, just versus fighting without a firearm or fighting with a knife or fighting with a bat. I don't teach fighting with a bat though. If you guys want it, I will. Just in the comments below, let me know.
Yeah. And it's got to be a wooden bat or a metal bat. Which one are we talking?
Wiffle ball bat for all I care.
That's the training materials. The wiffle ball bat. Okay.
That's the training bat.
No, that explains it, because I just was like, carbine. I didn't understand.
I used to call my handgun classes fighting pistol, but I found out through a phone call, very nice phone call from a gentleman that owns a company, that's trademarked.
Oh.
Yes.
I think I know who this person is.
I had no clue. I was like, and once he told me who he was, well, the company he now owns, that he bought or he took control of when the owner passed away.
Okay, it's not that person.
Yeah, it's from down south somewhere.
Oh.
He's like, and I'm like, oh, hey, I know that guy. And he's like, yeah. He goes, so ours are trademarked. And he goes, I'm actually a lawyer, but I run the company as well and stuff. He goes, it's trademarked, so I need you to change the name of your class, your handgun classes. He goes, because ours are fighting rifle, so fighting carbine is not trademarked. So you're good with fighting carbine. And I'm like, okay. So I had to change it. So I like, what can I come up with? I'm like, self-defense pistol. Well, that sounds good. I mean, the name is, look at the curriculum. It's all about the curriculum in the end.
Yeah.
I don't care. You could call it fighting with balloons. And if it teaches you the stuff you need to know,
I better find a balloon in there. That's all I'm saying.
So like in my self-defense pistol one and my fighting carbine one, it's pretty much the same stuff. Just one's using the carbine, one's using the pistol, and same thing for the number 2. It's very similar curriculum. In the number 2, it's a little bit different because some things you do with a rifle, you can't do with a handgun or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So I changed it around that. But the fighting 2 classes are my favorite classes to teach, because I am not teaching you the skill of shooting. You come to that class knowing how to shoot. And if you don't know how to shoot, well, that just means I'm going to take the target home and reuse it a different day, because it's not going to be bullet holes in it. Or you're saving my steel some rounds.
Do you have prerequisites? Like, do they have to go through 1 before they hit 2 and that kind of stuff?
It's all skill it's all skill based. So you look at what's on the curriculum. And you say, can I learn, do I have the skills that allow me to do these skills?
Okay.
Right? Like the basics of shooting a handgun, aligning the sights, pressing a trigger, not moving the sights off target. You need that, and you need to know that, right? Because if I have you start walking and shooting, or going low below cover to shoot, and you can't shoot well just standing still with no stress whatsoever, like I said earlier, it's not going to get better. Right. It's not. So I tell people when they do ask me that question, because I get quite a few phone calls, people are like, well, should I take this or that? And I said, well, what have you done? And they're like, well, I haven't done anything, but I shoot a lot. I'm like, I said, I don't know how you shoot. You're going to tell me one thing. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to see another. No disrespect, but I'm like, take whichever class you want. If you find that you've failed in this class in fighting rifle 2 or fighting self-defense pistol 2, if you find you failed in that class, then go take self-defense pistol 1, right? Or go take my practical pistol skills or my accuracy class. Wherever you found you failed, go find a class in that curriculum, get the knowledge you need, and then practice the snot out of it until you have it down in your sleep. Right?
Does that happen a lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I could definitely see somebody looking at that and be like, oh, no, I'm good. Yeah. And they go and take 2 and they're bad.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was asking. Yeah. That's because, yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of physical fitness, physical stress put into my fighting 2 classes because it's designed to test you. It's designed for you to test yourself. So there's
you're running like a mile beforehand?
No, but there'll be sprints up and down the range. You'll have sprints up and down the range. We'll be at the 10-yard line, and Blue Trail's about 60 yards long. I'll be okay, up, back, shoot, right? And I'll do it with them for a few. I can't do it all of them because I have to watch the class and stuff. But I'll do it with them, or I'll demo the stuff a couple times. That's why I go to the gyms. I can do this stuff and not look like a fool.
He's going to that treadmill, guys.
So, but I'll have them do that. I'll have them carry heavy stuff. I'll have them stress out their hands by carrying heavy stuff multiple times. Now your hands are tired.
Yeah. Yep.
I've done ice bucket stuff to numb your hands.
Cool.
And I've done
the ice bucket thing. That's from like when your adrenaline kicks in. So, and then the endorphins flow through, and your blood vessels constrict. And all of your blood starts going to your vital organs, so you lose manual dexterity.
Yeah.
So the ice bucket thing is what
slows you
does
down.
That without having to.
It numbs up your hands, so you have a hard time doing fine motor skills because, like you said, you lose that blood. The blood goes to your heart and lungs because the brain's going, "Hey, we are in danger." And a million years ago, if the saber-toothed tiger bit your arm off, you didn't want to die right away, so the blood wouldn't be spurting out of your arm. I had an officer that I did a class with. I was in his class from Florida. Great guy, Pete Soulis. And he got in a shootout. He was wicked in shape guy back, and he still is, even though he's like 75 years old. SWAT team guy. He'd been in shootings and stuff like that. He was on patrol one night, rolls up behind a car that's in a dark parking lot that's casing out a gas station across the street, ends up making contact with the driver shoots at him. He gets hit. They exchange fire a bunch of times. And this is some of the stuff that I learned over the years that really drove home how I teach and why I teach a certain way based off of how the body works. So Pete he's like, I'm getting my patrol rifle out of my trunk. Right. So he makes after being shot 4 or 5 times in his left side, he makes his way back to his cruiser, which is about 20 yards back, if I remember right. He gets behind his cruiser, he gets out his car key, and he can't get the car key into the lock, right? Because he is super hyper focused, right? And he can't focus close. So he's right next to the lock. So his close vision, his near vision's gone. We don't have, generally our near vision disappears when why you don't see your front sights in shootings, why that's been reported forever in police reports. I never saw my sights. And he had that with the car lock. And he shows you a picture of the dents that he put in the body of the vehicle around the lock with trying to get it. Finally, he said, screw it. He gave up. He went down and he wasted the dude. But after the guy was no longer a threat and the backup was on the way and they show up, he's standing there and, he's still all adrenaline up. And this is only a few minutes long. And when he calms down, all of a sudden blood starts spurting out of his arms.
Damn.
Well, why wasn't it doing it before? Because what Josh said, your body draws your blood to the heart, the lungs, the brain, and all your other organs that need to stay alive, right? You can live without arms if you get medical treatment. Yeah. You can't live without a heart, last time I checked. Not at this point.
I hope not yet.
Yeah. So, that's how I gear my training. Is off of stuff like that. So that's what got me to dive into how the body works during self-defense. Well, before I became a USCCA instructor, I was reading and learning about that stuff. I mean, you have the Force Science Institute, which is geared towards law enforcement. I think they have few civilian classes and stuff, but they do study upon study upon study on this kind of stuff. And I dived into that like 15 years ago or 18 years ago and never looked back. And that's why I train people the way I train them now.
So you said you had a Stop the Bleed class coming up.
Yes.
A little info about that. When, where?
So March 16th. March 16th. It's in Portland. I rent out the American Legion, and it's 10 people are allowed in the class. I don't do big classes when I do that kind of stuff because I like to make sure everybody gets plenty of hands-on time and gets to ask me questions and stuff like that. So I don't pack classes when it's non-lecture stuff. And it's $85. And it's 5 hours long, and it starts out with it's a USCCA mini class, right? And I'm teaching now. I'm bringing this from the experience that I've had over time, as well as the USCCA stuff. So I was as a military, you learn basic first aid stuff in the military. I was never a Boy Scout, didn't learn anything there. Then a lot of people are like, "Oh, in the Boy Scouts, I learned this." I was never a Boy Scout. So not they. If you're a Boy Scout, right on. So then police work. You had to be an MRT back in the day. So we all in the police academy, be everybody, which is one step below an EMT. So I did that in my first police department. We were MRTs. I responded to a lot of calls before the ambulance got there because it was a volunteer ambulance. Had a lot of work doing that stuff there. I went to a larger department. They don't do it because they had a full-time fire department. So those guys did it. And then I've been to a bunch of like TCCC, so tactical casualty care classes that West Hartford and Hartford Hospital would put on. West Hartford Police Department, their SWAT team guys, and Hartford Hospital would put on these classes. And I went to a couple of those as well as some other medical classes. And so I take that knowledge base that I have, and that's what made me comfortable teaching this class. If I didn't have all that, I wouldn't feel comfortable teaching tourniquets and chest seals to people just from that curriculum. It was never going to happen.
That's not something I'll ever teach. I've read a few.
That's why I'm like, when people just read it, like people were asking me questions in that class. It's not in the curriculum, but I knew the answers because of my previous training and experience. Gotcha. But not that you have to be a cop. You could be an EMT. You can be any number of medical stuff, right? Doing before. So March 16th, it's in Portland. It's $85. It's on my website, patrioperformanceshooting.com. Or if you go to my social media, there's a link to all of that there as well. It's a good class. You're going to do tourniquets. You're going to learn about the different types of tourniquets. I have almost all the types of tourniquets. So everybody can go hands-on with them. You'll apply them on yourself. You'll apply them on other students. I have the fake appendages kind of stuff that bleed. So we do wound packing. You'll be packing against fake blood.
Don't wear nice clothes.
Wear gloves. It doesn't spur. It's not. It's not like arterial bleed. It's not like shooting out. But I set it's set up so I can make it stop bleeding once I see the person's packing the wound because there's.
Why keep wasting blood?
It's fake, So, chest seals, wound packing, and I bring a lot of stuff for the students to put hands on with, so they can experience what these things look like, so they can make their own kit. Because that's how we end the class. We talk about what you might want to put in your kit, where you can get those things, different resources for it. And USCC has some resources in the PowerPoint. I give them some additional resources for options and stuff like that. And then we also talk about like shock due to hemorrhaging, blood loss versus other kinds of shock. That's the end of it. And then the setting up your kit part of it. And the first one I did was last month, and last month, because we're in March now. No, we're in February. It was in January. Excuse me. And it went well. Everything went off without a hitch. Went off as I planned. Everybody really, really enjoyed it. I had a police officer in there. I had a military guy. And then I had 7 civilians.
Really?
Yeah. All motivated people that wanted to learn to help themselves and help their families and help neighbors.
When we did the classes and we had an EMT teaching them, I think the classes are great.
Yeah.
I think they're important, and it is hard to convince people on why they should take that class.
Yep.
I know a lot of people that have taken them. I have not, and it's something on my bucket list. I do need to.
March 16th.
I know. I was just he said that. We will
we'll talk.
Because especially yes, for shooting and for stuff like that that can happen, but also with what we do working in a shop.
Yep.
And working with routers and saws, and I'm on blood thinners. My husband gets a little nervous.
Yeah. That's a huge one.
So
I went to our shop yesterday, and she's just going away at whatever she was doing. Doesn't even realize I'm in there.
No,
You're
I'm
focused.
sawing.
Yes,
I was working.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's on our list because it suits the whole idea for self-defense and then helping whoever's around you. But on top of it, it can also help in other people's lives
100%.
in anything, car accidents, whatever you run across.
I've been to snowblower as a cop. I've been to snowblower accidents. I mean, if you've seen an arm that's mangled from a snowblower, you know, and I didn't have tourniquets back then, so it's just like wrap the thing up, wait for the. Thank God it was super cold out. The guy wasn't bleeding that much because of the cold. But I've been to, you know, car accidents, snowblower accidents, lawnmower accidents, industrial accidents.
Well, the trees,
like you're saying, your shop, you know,
yes,
it could be people in warehouses that work around heavy objects that are on shelves, things they have to climb, tree workers, warehouse workers who have to climb things. This is one class that literally, if you drive a car, you should take this class.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think it's.
If you leave your house, you should probably take this class. If you sit in your basement, playing your video game, drinking your Red Bull all day, just stay there. But everybody else, if you leave the house, take this class. By me or anybody else. I don't care. It doesn't have to come to mind. Just go to one. That's all that's important.
That's actually something we've actually thought about bringing into our holster business is you can build your own kit and have all that stuff available to make med kits. Because we've had a couple people ask us about it. So I've got a couple people I've been talking to about doing something like that.
A little like build your own kit on the site. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Sure, Jim can do that. Right, Jim?
Well, yeah. And I think because it would depend on.
Got a lot of free time on your hands, huh?
Well, the more you look at these and the kits that they have, it pertains to what you are going to need it for. You know, yes, there's a universal, but if you're doing something else, it will go for something specific.
What's Frank pulling out here?
I carry a tourniquet on me every day, all the time. I could be going out to a funeral. I could be going out to dinner, fancy dressed up. I find a place to put a tourniquet. I've been doing this probably for 10 years now, carrying a tourniquet on me, ever since I started learning about it in my first tactical casualty care class. And I mean, it's just such a basic thing, and it's so easy to have one. There's so many kinds out there. I've got this nice, pretty small one right here that works very, very, very well. I don't think it's approved by whatever organization, but it works. I've cut my blood flow off with it, the trainer version that I have of it many, many times, practicing with it. You can, this and some rolled gauze can deal with a good portion of problems, you know.
We carry tourniquet holders for the Cat 7s.
Yeah.
So.
All right. We have one final question.
Okay,
for
what do
you,
we got?
Frank. What do you think is the most challenging roadblock facing new students?
It's the lack. So I'm going to say it's the lack of knowledge of if they didn't grow up in a gun environment, so they don't have family that's into it, especially. It's a lack of knowledge of where to gain knowledge.
So it's the resources. They don't know where the resources are.
Yeah. That's probably one of my more common answers to that question is these people, they take a class, and the other thing I would say is they don't have an understanding, you know, of what happens in a real gunfight, right?
So what advice would you give to people? Like go out and search for the resources?
Yeah. Oh, call. I mean, go to your local gun store. Maybe they can help. Big maybe there, because a lot of different gun stores, a lot of different people.
Yeah.
It depends on who they have working there. There's a lot of different opinions, right? Maybe they could help. You literally go into your search browser. We've talked about this. Go into your search browser and search up whatever the topic is you're thinking about. Maybe you search up what happens in a gunfight. I mean, how simple is that to put a search in? You're going to get a lot of responses, but you know, usually the ones at the top are the more popular ones. You could find a local instructor like me, you guys, you know, anybody in that kind of industry. Start there. Even if they give you bad information, it's going to probably lead you to good information eventually. If you do your work, you have to put work into it to get the information you need. Nobody's going to hand it to you. There's nobody sitting there on the street corner going, here's the information you need. You got to go find it. So you have to be a little bit motivated. If you're willing to like go and find out your favorite, you know, find your favorite set of golf clubs somewhere, you should be willing to go and find the information you need about self-defense and having a gun and responsibilities and stuff like that.
Yeah. No,
I like it.
Yeah.
I know when I go shopping, if I'm looking, like right now, I'm looking for raincoats so that we have a raincoat on the cruise, and I'm Googling. So I'm going in and then I'm searching. So it gives me all of these different brands and, you know, different lightweights and heavyweights. And so then you go and you tap it all down. I guess it's the same thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That'd be it.
No.
Not going to say anything. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Well, just,
where can they find
they can
your
find
classes?
me patriotperformanceshooting.com. That's my website. That'll lead you to the roster of all my classes, my self-defense classes, including like first aid classes and stuff like that.
Social media?
Social media, yep. Patriot Performance Shooting. It's all under that brand. So if you go into Facebook, you go into Instagram, you go into Twitter, it'll all be under that. And then my website. And honestly, you can call me. You got questions about stuff. You're not sure about a class. People call me all the time. And I tell people,
what's the number?
860-966-0890.
Okay.
You can text me. You can call me. It's out there on the website. So it's not like it's some secret. It's people are like, why do you give out your number? Oh, business.
Yeah. Telemarketers find me. Why not you?
So many.
Yeah. And I'll try and help you out however I can. I expect at the same point, at some point, you'll support me back. So I'm not a free book.
Can we put his website up on our link tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's appreciated. Thank you very much, guys.
We'll time that for when the video comes out.
Appreciate that.
You got it.
Good. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Frank, for coming on. Appreciate it. Appreciate you spending the time. I'm Josh.
And I'm Michelle.
And we'll see you guys next time.